like you don't care, and we're leading something bare. And in the water I see cold reflections of what's really there. I'm not waiting, no, our time has come. We're fighting empires and I want to feel the fire again. It's not easy to love when the world is numb. We're fighting empires. through, not even aware that it's the darkness that's so hard to see. And I'm asking you to fight, just about the difficulty breaking free from what's really there. I'm not waiting on love, our time has come. We're fighting empires and I want to feel the fire again. It's not easy to love when the world is numb. We're fighting empires and we're gonna feel the fire again. I'm not waiting on love, our time has come. We're fighting empires and I want to feel the fire again. It's not easy to love when the world is numb. We're fighting empires and we're gonna feel the fire again. Tell me the truth, tell me what's bothering you. We know we're future proof, we know we're future proof. Tell me the truth, tell me what's bothering you. We know we're future proof, we know we're future proof. Tell me the truth, tell me what's bothering you. We know we're future proof, we know we're future proof. Tell me the truth, tell me what's bothering you. We know we're future proof, we know we're future proof. Tell me the truth, tell me what's bothering you. We know we're future proof, we know we're future proof.
If you play the strings, I'll sing all night. I need a remedy, and melodies always make me feel alright. If you set the scene, I'll dim the lights. Creating memories, we treasure these forever throughout our lives. You can be my remedy, my therapy through the night. I can feel your energy, you healing me, stars align. You can be my remedy, my therapy through the night. I can feel your energy, you healing me. If you play those keys, I'll feel alive. It's the chemistry, I feel it deep, the strength I had lost revives. You know how it feels to sink in time. It's so heavenly, serenity forever throughout our lives. Last summer we laid in the park, 80 degrees by the time it gets dark. My head on your shoulder, I'm around mine. Racing you down to the edge of the water, the way your tattoos look under your collar. I'm not gonna worry, we're passing the time. And the hardest days are going fast, and I know that nothing ever lasts. 'Cause it feels like we're both where we're supposed to be. Windows down, driving slow while you're kissing me, but I know I'm gonna crash. City's made for losing you, falling, finding someone new. But call me at 2 in the morning to say you feel it too. City's made for losing you, but fighting and forgetting through. Coming over at 3 in the morning because you feel it too. Cause you feel it too. Coming over at 3 in the morning because you feel it too. All weekend we on the phone. You say that you wanna move home. I think maybe you were never mine. We're racing around like the world's gonna end, but are we gonna break when we're trying to bend? But when you show up and say everything's fine. And the hardest days are going fast, and I know that nothing ever lasts. 'Cause feels like we're not where we're supposed to be. Wanna drive late at night with you next to me, but I don't think that I can last. The city's made for losing you, falling, finding someone new. But call me at 2 in the morning to say you feel it too. The city's made for losing you, but fighting and forgetting through. Coming over at 3 in the morning because you feel it too. Cause you feel it too. Coming over at 3 in the morning because you feel it too. City's made for losing you, falling, finding someone new. But call me at 2 in the morning to say you feel it too. The city's made for losing you, falling, finding someone new. But call me at 2 in the morning to say you feel it too.
I'm putting you in command of the spaceship. I was a little worried that I might be getting song. Invasion. Plastic. We're getting slaughtered down here.
got a feeling it burns in my chest. It's growing larger with every breath I take. When I fight it, I hide it, it takes me down. Yeah, I know we created a mess. It's growing bigger with every choice we make. Yeah, we're here, we keep coming around. The more it itches, the higher we go, the harder we fall in and out of love. We should burn those bridges, never look back, but in the end we lose ourselves again. Together. Together. The energy, yeah, it's blacking me out. Being so close to you, I'm paralyzed. So I'm breathing it in, everything. Oh, the more it itches, the higher we go, the harder we fall in and out of love. We should burn those bridges and never look back, but in the end we lose ourselves again. Together. 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 The more it itches, the higher we go, the harder we fall in and out of love. Together.
What is up, Level Up Nation, and welcome to the Monday, October 5th edition of LvLUp Live, your home for gaming and esports news brought to you by OTN Media. My name is Fiasco. We're friends. You can call me John. That handsome stud over there in the always fanatic gear, that's my buddy, the king of the courtside king. You can call him Joey, though, because we're all friends here. Joey, it's Monday. What's poppin', bud?
Dude, things are good. I'm glad to see you were able to record in your jail cell over there.
Yeah, I have yet to decorate the back wall of the new studio space. As you can see, if you're watching your live on Twitch, even my camera settings are currently off. So we have a little way to go before we get everything in the new space figured out here. But bear with me. It's going to be good. It's going to be fun. It's going to be an adventure together, Joey. All right, Nation, if you haven't done so already, make sure you follow LvLUp Live on social media. You can find LvLUp Live on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at LvLUp Live. That is at LvLUP Live. And while you're on Twitter, Joey needs to hit 1,000 followers. Now, he's not going to tell you this. He's not going to come out and say, I need 1,000 followers. He doesn't want to hit, 4 digits. He doesn't want to go out there and just say it. He secretly wants it, and I know that. So why not give him a follow on Twitter if you're not doing so already? You can find him at Courtside King. And while you're at it, if you got an extra follow to spare, find me at Fiasco. If you're watching here live on the webcast here on Twitch, those handles are below those mugshots you're currently staring at. If you're listening on the podcast down the road, they'll be in the show notes for you below. And Nation, as always, if you do wish to listen to the podcast version of the show, LvLUp Podcast is available on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. And since you're already listening to the podcast version, why not leave us a really awesome review? Reviews do go a long way to help grow and reach the audience and reach new people to bring into the audience. So we would be appreciative if you took a small portion of your day to leave us a really awesome review. All right, Joey. We had a slight little break. I'm going to go and call it our fall break, i.e. me moving pretty much. We have a ton to catch up on. What are we discussing today on the Monday edition of LvLUp Live?
Great question, John. We're talking roster moves. We got a few of those back in the news. We're not going to cover everything we missed last week, just more of the second half of the week like we normally would on a Monday episode. So you got those fancy roster moves. You have some new updates on Stadia, xCloud, Sony, Xbox, that good stuff. Not going to spend a ton of time on that as we did the last couple of weeks. From there, we're going to go on and talk a little bit about some big shakeups in the esports league industry, as well as Genshin Impact.
All right, Joey. It's been too long for this segment. It's the drink of choice segment. I almost forgot my drink today. This is how chaotic this Monday has been. Joey, let's turn this Monday around. Let's pull a full 180. Let's send this in the right direction. Let's close Monday out and the rest of our week. Let's look forward to the rest of our week in proper fashion, of course. That all starts with our drink of choice. So, Joey, your beverage for the Monday edition of LvLUp Live, please.
John, we're going a little harder. We're going some bourbon again tonight. I did finish off all of my craft beers. They were great. I really like Aslan Brewery for those of you in the Virginia DMV area. Very, very good stuff over there, but I am out at the moment, so I'm back to the Woodford Reserve.
That's not bad, not bad. So I ran out of Kraken rum. I apologize. Payday's Friday. I'm going to have to wait to go get some more Kraken. So we're going back to Old Faithful, a.k.a. Captain Morgan. So it is a tan and stormy. I'm not going to call it dark and stormy because it's obviously not dark rum. But yeah, it's Captain Morgan and ginger beer, a delicious
tan and stormy.
Tan and stormy. It's not dark and stormy.
I like that.
Call it tan and stormy. All right, Joey, we have our beverages. We have our topics. Squircle is already harassing me about the World of Warcraft delays, which so happens to be a topic in this show. So Squircle, just make sure you get those tissues on standby for me. Joey, I don't want to waste any more time. It's been a week. Let's get right into it. Let's get right into gaming and esports news. Let's go.
John, Cloud9 is going to be our first topic today, talking about their roster moves, which, funny enough, outnumber the number of wins that North America has at Worlds so far. Hey-o, Cloud9, Grandmaster Chess, they have picked up a player. I believe it's pronounced Penguin GM1. I'm guessing the GM is Grandmaster. I didn't know chess was an esport thing, but I think this has been the third or fourth team that has now picked up a chess player for their roster. So we saw auto chess take off as an esport. Now we're going back to traditional chess taking off as well.
Yeah. Why not? I mean, to me, this move feels like what we see in Europe when it comes to these large sport organizations. Like, let's take Bayern Munich, for example, just because, I'm a fan of theirs. They're not just a soccer team. They have a basketball team. They have a tennis team. They have, you name it. They're a club-based organization that has multiple different sport titles. That's what I feel like this move is. I feel like this move is kind of broadening the reaches of Cloud9 into chess. I'm going to be honest, I don't quite understand the move. I've never been a fan of chess. Now, speed chess I find absolutely fascinating because these are people that can think a lot faster than I can. And I don't understand chess at all. So it's different. It's unique. I'm kind of curious to see where Cloud9 goes with this, along with the other organizations that are kind of moving this direction as well. I'm kind of curious to see how chess helps expand their brand into different parts of the nerdverse, if you will.
Yeah, I'm actually going to look up Grandmaster Chess right now just to make sure it is actually traditional chess. See, this is what happens when you take a week off. You don't quite research as well. It does look like it is traditional chess online. So online traditional chess, Grandmaster Chess, yes, they've got a new player there, but that is not all. They are jumping back into the Halo scene, which, fun fact, Cloud9 has not been in Halo since Ninja was a competitive player, now a big-time streamer. They've added Kevin Eco Smith, Renegade JW, Penguin, the Stellar, and Coach Huxer onto their roster. Again, I think this is a big move. I think Halo, I don't want to get my hopes up, but I think it's going to have a reemergence as Infinite comes out, with free-to-play multiplayer, with multiplayer on PC and on Xbox consoles for day one. There's a lot of potential for a lot of success in that area for them to potentially get back to the success that they saw in their MLG days. And it seems like a number of big organizations are buying in. Sentinels has already secured their roster, now Cloud9 as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a matter of time. It's something that a lot of people have been kind of scratching at the surface that with Halo kind of reemerging, will the Halo esports scene come back? And we're starting to see organizations move in that direction. Halo, incredibly popular back in its heyday, now making that resurgence. I think it's a smart move. I think for organizations that have the ability to splash some cash or realign what they're doing, and look at creating a Halo roster for when Halo really does start to blow up a little bit more on its reemergence. I think it's a smart move. Halo is a very well-received gaming title. I mean, the entire thing, it spans generations now. So yeah, it makes sense to make this move.
Yeah, I also feel like Halo is one of those things where if it goes back to its prime, it could be a giant title. And an organization like Cloud9, they're almost always on top of these new titles. I want to say they were the first NA team to sign a Valorant roster. League of Legends, they got in pretty early on as well. CSGO, they've had multiple rosters. Dota 2. It seems like no matter what the esport is, they're one of the first groups to get into it. I want to say they were the first Overwatch League team to be announced too, something around there, at least with the London Spitfire. So again, just continuing to be on top of these scenes, whether they're coming back into a scene, whether they're joining a new scene overall, they seem to always be on the crux of that scene, kind of taking off or having that reemergence. So I think it's big to have an organization like Cloud9 joining Halo, not only for Cloud9, but for the league in of itself. Also in that Halo scene, Sentinels have strengthened their Halo squad, welcoming home Frosty from the Call of Duty League's Florida Mutineers. While with the Mutineers, Frosty did quite well, John. He did not have a bad season at all, but he's decided to come back to Halo at least for a little while. With the Mutineers, he helps the team secure 3 league titles. So not full league titles, but homestand titles, as they call them. So with the way the Call of Duty League is broken down into those weekend segments every couple weekends, Florida did take home 3 of those with the help of Frosty. On top of that, the Florida Mutineers did finish in the top 8 of the Call of Duty League. So he is not leaving because he had a bad time with Call of Duty. He's leaving because he wants to come back to Halo. Again, the seasons don't really align with one another. So there's a very good chance he comes and plays Halo, and then before the launch of Infinite, he does go back to Call of Duty League. It's very possible. But for now, the Halo 5 Pro scene is set to kick off on October 10th, and they do have one of the stars of the CDL coming back in Frosty to play in that league. Valorant 100 Thieves has finally rounded out their roster. Guys, do you remember this original roster, LvLUp listeners? This was that roster where Hiko came over. He's like, yeah, I'm going to build a team. I have all the 100 Thieves organization behind me. It's going to be great. And then 100 Thieves is like, hey, Hiko, we like you, but we're going to stick you with 4 PUBG players and see what happens. It did not go well, to say the least. They had some decent appearances here and there, but it was never up to the expectations of Hiko, the organization, the fans of the organization. It definitely fell short. Again, no offense to those players. They came from a very different game compared to Hiko, who came from CS, which is a tactical shooter in and of itself. I don't blame them. I don't like the transparency between there. If Hiko came over and signed thinking that he was going to have some of this, if there was some kind of conversation that went on into place there. Regardless, it did not happen the way he wanted it to. Eventually, when the roster got dropped, he now had that opportunity to help build this roster. And John, this is a powerhouse roster. So we already have Hiko, we have Josh Neeson, and we have Nitro coming over from Team Liquid as well. Now they've added Asuna and Dicey. Asuna played for I believe, Immortals prior to this, and then Dicey coming over as well. So you're looking at a 5-man potential powerhouse Valorant roster here for NA. If I had to take a guess, I think this is probably a top 3 roster nowadays for NA.
Oh, for sure. And, you're going to have a strong roster to compete with NA, which seems to be one of the better, if not the top tier when it comes to Valorant, with TSM really holding it down themselves. Cloud9 trying to make some noise right there. But, you're 100% correct. This roster is stacked. 100 Thieves, I mean, you have to be happy. If you're a 100 Thieves fan, if you're in that ecosystem, if you're a fan of just their apparel and you just like to be associated with that organization, you have to be happy with these moves. It's a very strong roster. Can't wait to see this team in action and see what they can do. There's a lot of potential on paper with these signings.
Well, and when you come to high-level play as well, like, I get it. If you're really good at PUBG, you're a very talented player, you're probably very mechanically good at a number of games. But to come over in a pro level and play at that same high level in another game that's a tactical shooter versus, I don't even know what kind of shooter style you call PUBG. It's definitely a third-person shooter compared to first-person. That in of itself is a huge difference. And I think that's one of the things we overlook with Sinatra as well. Being as good as he was in Overwatch League and then making the move to Valorant and still being very high qualified, very high competitive at the level he's able to play over here, I think is just very, very impressive. Same with Corey as well. So a number of these players, very impressive to watch. But overall, for 100 Thieves, now making that move with a bit more of a CSGO talent behind them, with that tactical shooter edge, with that prior knowledge coming in, I think is going to be a big move for this roster. Moving into some other news, the new Chromecast from Google will not support Stadia at launch. However, it will support Microsoft's xCloud service. Stadia support should come a little bit later. I think it's going to come in 2021. But John, you and I have jumped back and forth on this one. What is Google doing? Like, this is one of those things where you're going to launch this new service. You come out, you're a little behind the game because Microsoft has all these games. NVIDIA has all these games, this connection to your library. Amazon is now coming out with Luna as a different type of model. But overall, it's all cloud gaming. So you're Google, you're launching your cloud device here, and you're saying it's not going to support your cloud gaming, but it's going to support a competitor's cloud gaming. I don't care if it's Microsoft, NVIDIA, Amazon. From Google's perspective, this makes no sense to me at all.
It's like Hulu giving you a free subscription to Netflix. It's like HBO giving you a subscription to Showtime. It's like your cell phone provider, Sprint, because they do stupid things, giving you a free phone subscription or plan to AT&T. It just doesn't make sense. Why? And I trash these companies because I have them and the customer service is atrocious. Anywho, it doesn't make sense. If you're in the same cloud gaming market as Microsoft and everybody else, and you're trying to get your stuff out there, and you're going to put out a new version of your streaming device, the Chromecast, and you're not going to put Stadia integration into it, but you're going to put your competitor into it, it's like you're setting yourself up for failure, or you're trying to hide the fact that Stadia still sucks and has lag issues. Either way, you're not helping yourself out. The consumer is not going to sit here and be like, oh, well, this is nice of Google. I can take a look at what Microsoft is doing now. And then Microsoft, maybe one day Microsoft comes out with a streaming platform of their own. We'll call it Windows. I don't know. Their own in-home streaming content.
Windows Series X.
Windows Series X, 1X1, 360. And we'll just go ahead and say, no one else is going to do this. NVIDIA is not going to release their new version of a stream console inside of someone's home and have Microsoft on there. It just makes no sense. This move is completely dumbfounding from Google. Why in the world would you support your competitor but not your own product? It makes zero sense.
Right. And I think for me, the supporting the competitor is not the big of an issue. I think it's more the supporting the competitor when your own competition is not on there. If you're Google, if you're Stadia, you have to be looking at this like, why am I going to allow these competitors to come on to my new product, allow them to potentially establish a market with the people buying my product before my service is even on the platform? That to me, I'm hoping this was oversight somewhere. I think it's a really dumb mistake by Google. Again, they're a $1 trillion company, almost just about, and I am not a $1 trillion company, so they probably have a little bit more people looking into this than just you and I, John. But overall, it just doesn't make sense from a consumer perspective. It's one of those things where, hey, Google, like, you should put your own products on your own products here. And I think the fact that it's being delayed a few months compared to competitors is going to be a big disadvantage, unless they're looking at killing off Stadia. Maybe Stadia is going to be the next Google Tasks or the next whatever Google service. And it seems like they kill one off every 6 to 7 months. Maybe it eventually gets killed off in that sense because they don't want to compete with Amazon and Microsoft and all these other companies in that space. I don't know. But I do know this is a big mess because now people going out to get Chromecast that want to stay gamers that maybe don't have a console, now they're going to start looking at these other competitors like an xCloud or other things like that, as opposed to maybe waiting around to see what Google has to offer with the lag that it comes with.
Here's your boomer moment of the show here, Joey. It's like going to google.com and Ask Jeeves pops up. It doesn't make sense. You're competing against yourself. You need to have your own product on there. Yeah, I agree with you, Joey. Like, you can have Microsoft's xCloud on there. It makes complete sense. But you have to have your own product on there as well to compete against it. It just makes zero sense to release it without your own product going up against the competition.
Well, you could even tie it in too. Like, do some kind of promotion. You can subscribe, get the new Chromecast and get 3 months at half price for the Stadia subscription or whatever. Like, there's just so many missed opportunities here. It's really upsetting to look at, especially with just how much cloud gaming is growing worldwide. I think Google's really missing out on this one. New Xbox feature, John, and I kind of hope this comes to PC as well, mainly because of Call of Duty. Xbox players on Series X and S consoles will have the ability to selectively uninstall portions of games to free up space. So if you're playing Call of Duty and you just want Warzone, well, you can delete the other stuff that doesn't have to do with it. If you're like me and you own the full Call of Duty and you don't want single player, multiplayer, and Warzone all on your device at one time because it takes up like, I don't know, a fifth of a hard drive, this is one of those things that's now going to be available on Xboxes. And given the X, it's not going to be as big of an issue with 1 terabyte, but the S being so limited in space with, what is it going to be, like 400, 500, if I remember correctly. This is now one of those things that's, hey, if you finish a single player campaign, delete it off. You can keep your Halo multiplayer, your Gears of War multiplayer, whatever you want to keep. Once that campaign is done, just delete it out. I think this is a really good move.
Just wait until developers find a way to tie in, like, oh, let's say you complete the campaign on Call of Duty and you no longer want on there because you want to focus on multiplayer now. Let's say they tie in all these exclusive cosmetics to completing the single player campaign, and then you delete it, and guess what? Those files aren't there anymore. You don't have access to the really cool cosmetics. I'm just waiting for that to happen.
That would be interesting.
That would suck.
I mean, with Call of Duty, at least, we know Activision likes their microtransactions.
Yes.
They're going to lean toward that multiplayer element regardless. But with some games like Halo, for example, I know they've added skulls in later on. So like you said, John, maybe I think there's cloud saving at this point in today's day and age, but had it come back to those memory card days, this would be a giant nightmare. But nowadays, I don't think it'll be as big of an issue as it was back in the day. PlayStation is making a universal change to the UI, ladies and gentlemen, especially our Japanese listeners, if there are any out there. PlayStation is making the cross button. Yes, that X button is known as the cross button. It's now going to be the confirm button for all regions moving forward. I thought this was already the case. I was very much mistaken, according to many different Japanese gamers out there on PlayStation. Apparently, this is like a catastrophe. Japan is freaking out right now because they thought that the confirm button should remain on the circle button because that is the way it has been for 26 years. And they think Sony has disrupted gaming in the nation of Japan by moving this button around. Again, I think this is a little bit of an exaggeration. I don't think this is as big of a deal, but I also don't live in Japan and haven't had that same button for 26 years.
Damn it, Sony. So this is the dumbest thing ever. Now, yes, some of the games that came from Japan on the PlayStation in the North American market still used circle as a confirm button. Yes, it threw me off because I always thought it should be on the X button. I refuse to call it the cross button. It is an X button. I'm sorry. This is Japan. Look, we're friends. We're allies. You know, it's fine. You guys like baseball. America likes baseball for the most part. You know, let's just get over it. Get over the fact that you're going to press the X button from now on, or the cross button, whatever. It doesn't freaking matter. It's like, what, a whole half an inch difference on the controller? Here you go. Right there. See? We have the circle and we have the X right there. That is not even a full inch. You see how easy this is? Oh. Uh-oh. Look, it's done. Look, get over it, Japan. I'm sorry. It's dumb. It's just, you make it uniform. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, I think this is one of those things. It's going to last a couple weeks, in my opinion. Like, okay, they're going to take a little while to get used to it. They might get pissed off because they clicked the wrong thing and they don't accept a rare item, and instead they say cancel or whatever goes on. Maybe they overwrite a save file. That could really blow someone up. But overall, I just don't see this as big of an issue. To me, it's the same argument that some Sony fans had with the controller thing. They can't play their DualShock 4s with the new PlayStation 5 games. Is that really that big of a deal?
No.
I don't remember ever going back to any previous console and playing with the controller. Now, I love the fact that Xbox is supporting the Xbox One controller moving forward, but it's not a giant thing to me. Like, I'm not going to buy an Xbox solely because they support last gen's controller, and I'm not going to buy a PS5 just because they don't support last gen's controller. That, to me, again, similar thing, non-issues, people just blowing up about nothing.
But Joey, I'm gonna have to wait extra long to get a PlayStation 5 Urban Camo controller now. I just want to use my PS4 controller on my non-existent PS5 that would take up 90% of the current desk I'm sitting at. People complain about the dumbest things, and this happens to be one of them.
It's just so dumb. So PlayStation 5 guys, look, you can't blow into your PS4 controller, but you can do it on the PS5, and that's how you play those new games. So get ready for that new console, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of cool features, and again, with them upgrading controllers, both controllers for both consoles are going to be really cool and have some new features. Sony in particular has put a lot of cool designs into their new controller, so that will be cool to get your hands on. Once that happens, just remember, confirm is on the cross button.
X.
I'm going to go with cross because Sony has corrected me, telling me it's the cross. So thanks to them, I'm going to say it. But yes, I agree. It looks like an X. It seems like an X. That is not what I would think of as a cross. But hey, that's where we are today. Hands-on approach to consoles. Last thing for consoles, guys. Again, we talked about them a lot last week, so I don't want to spend too much time on them today. Xbox has sent a number of consoles to a variety of content creators, and they're unlocking features kind of like on a week-by-week basis. So they're saying, hey, all you guys have your consoles. You can play backwards compatibility titles without updates yet. You can show these parts of the UI. You can show any part of the physical console. So they're giving consoles out to tons of people, but they are limiting a bit on what features can be shown over the course of what week. I get it. I think it's to, let's say, build up hype or allow hype and new momentum to continue to build over the course of the week prior to that November 10th launch. With that being said, there are different approaches being taken by Microsoft and Sony here. So that is the Microsoft Xbox approach. On the Sony approach has been a little bit different, a little bit more secretive. They have finally allowed a small selection of Japanese creators to access PS5s this past weekend. However, they had to do it in a controlled environment. Oh, gosh, I don't know if that's chat or me. So they had this controlled environment. It looked like a white room. It looked kind of crazy looking, where they had these creators sit down at computers and play with these PS5s. One big key factor, they were not able to touch the actual console, so they were not able to have any contact with the console. They were, however, able to touch the controller and play a select number of games. And Travis Scott apparently has one in his house too. So other than the Japanese creators, you have Travis Scott here on the English side to get your feedback from as well. This is weird to me. Like, I get it. Sony in general has a giant market share. They're doing extremely well, super successful. You have a giant clientele, a very strong clientele behind you. I don't get some of this approach. Like, I understand you want the big creators from Japan. I think that's great. I think that's awesome. Not allowing them to touch the console seems a little sketchy to me. Having them do it in one controlled white room also seems kind of sketchy to me. And the whole Travis Scott thing, I just don't get.
You make it very hard to defend you, Sony. This is ridiculous. This is the dumbest thing ever. Joey, I have our title for this podcast for when we publish it online for our podcast listeners. Sony makes us stupid multiple times. It's as simple as that. Sony makes us stupid. It's grammatically incorrect. That's how horrific Sony is going about this whole thing right now. The PlayStation 5, in comparison to anything else right now, is just a clown fiesta. There's no other way. This is literally the two worst teams in North America in League of Legends playing. It's an absolute clown fiesta. It's a run it down mid at 8 minutes into the game. It is literally a one for all and everyone playing Blitzcrank. This is the Sony. Stop being stupid. I hate this. You make it. I want to throw this controller and break it. You are making me very angry. I will buy an Xbox if this is what it takes for Sony to straighten this. This is I can't touch the console. I have to go to a white room and put on white gloves and just magically hover.
Time out. There were no gloves involved.
There should be gloves involved if you're in a white room to touch this gigantic console that's apparently the size of a home refrigerator. That it's the dumbest thing ever. Sony is making so much out of nothing. What are they afraid that the console's going to magically disintegrate if a human finger touches it? It's the dumbest thing ever. Just stop it, Sony.
I think the thing that worries me most about it, not necessarily the games or them being in one room together. Chat's bringing up COVID, which is a valid point. Hopefully they had masks on. I don't really know what the COVID situation in Japan currently looks like. They were blowing in controllers, so I'm guessing that was probably not the most sanitary thing to be doing. But one of the things for me is the heating issues. They continue to have all these heating issues come up over and over. There's rumors that the console was released late due to some heating issues, and that's why it didn't get shown until June. There's a number of different things that have come up where there might be a fan attachment in the works. So there's a lot of different things going on about the heating thing. And then you have all these content creators come out and are not able to touch the console while it's running. That to me makes it a little bit more nervous. And I don't want to say it verifies those rumors, but it's one of those things that it doesn't really nullify them either. If people can't touch the console, we don't know if it's running super hot. We did hear it's quiet. So that is an improvement over, I believe it was the PS4 Pro was very loud. So now that we know it's quiet, that's great, but we don't know what the heating is like. And that to me still, it doesn't verify, but it also doesn't really confirm that it's not an issue either.
I'm going to have to tweet Travis Scott. I need to ask the temperature in that room that he was in, because if it was like 50 degrees and they're pumping cold air through the system, so there's obviously a heating situation. And Joey, hypothetically speaking, let's say they go ahead and create an external exhaust for this mammoth of a console, right? So we're already going to say it's $150 for the freaking wall mount for the stinking console. What is this exhaust fan attachment gonna run? Like another $100 to help make sure your system doesn't overheat because the design looks like a router that is like way too tall and probably still doesn't provide enough signal for your entire house. Joey, I am really upset with Sony right now. This is so dumb. This is the dumbest thing ever.
It's just one of those things, like, I get it. You have a giant market share, and I think that's where this is really coming down to. They know they have a ton of loyal fans. Some of the fans are almost like lemmings in a sense when it comes to Sony. They'll just follow regardless of whatever they do. There are a number of knowledgeable fans. John being one of those fans is actually going to look at the different specs of the console, that is actually going to look at the games being launched. A number of fans on both sides, Xbox, PlayStation, maybe even Google too, if they don't get a new Chromecast. They all have their crazy fans. This one to me is just, it's leaving too much up in the air to be determined by fans. And a lot of these fans are turning to rumors now, which is starting to heat up the environment even more. So hopefully that doesn't heat up the PS5s as much as it sounds like they are, and we'll get some actual hands-on. Personally, for me, Digital Foundry is the go-to. Xbox has finally sent their stuff over to them, so they're working through their full review of that. I'm hoping Sony sends hardware to them as well, because they always seem to do the most detailed breakdown of everything, giving the actual specs. This is how it controls. This is what we actually have in usable hardware space. This is the image-to-image conversion. All of that good stuff. Digital Foundry knocks it out of the park, so I definitely recommend them. I'm hoping Sony gives them a console here sooner than later.
So just real quick, our Sony insider Squircle has confirmed that it doesn't sound like a jet engine, just a Greyhound bus.
Good.
And for those of you that are too young to know what a Greyhound bus is, take your.
What do you mean too young? That's still a thing.
Is it still a thing? I haven't seen a
still a
Greyhound in like 8 years. Like, it sounds like an 18-wheeler, like missing 4 cylinders in its engine. It sounds awful. It's terrible.
Oh my gosh, chat is out of control tonight. If you guys haven't had a chance yet, I don't know the guy's name, but there's a PS5 content creator or Sony content creator who goes through and shows a demo of blowing into the controller while playing Astro's Playground. I don't know if this dude is just crazy to begin with, and that's like his content style. But if you guys have not seen GIFs of this guy yet or videos, it is 100% worth looking into. It will change your week. It is just that much of a experience. It's almost like a hallucination watching this dude just go through and do his thing. Like, it's an experience. I highly recommend it.
I've got to
Over to more serious news. Pete Velastelica, I believe is how you pronounce it, the former commissioner of the Overwatch League, as well as Activision Blizzard CEO, has stepped down from both his positions to transition into a new entrepreneurial role within the company. John, not too many details on this overall, but we do know this is the second commissioner to step down of the Overwatch League. We saw Nate Nancer move on over to Epic, and he's working with Rocket League and Fortnite now. On top of that, it sounds like Pete will be staying with Activision Blizzard, but will not be in that role any longer. So we do have some new blood coming in for season 4, it sounds like, for that position.
So next year will mark the third new commissioner in the 4 years of Overwatch League. That's not good. Stability-wise, it's not good for any league. It's not good for any organization. You can't have that kind of turnover. Overwatch League definitely struggled with COVID. That was a massive wild card that nobody really, prepared for. You can't prepare for an international pandemic. And Overwatch League got hit hard. They had to change their schedule. They had to change the way they just operated in general. This was supposed to be the year of the homestand where we finally got in-market games. And we got maybe a few weeks of that before the whole COVID crisis hit North America and people started taking it seriously for the most part. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where this goes for Overwatch League. Nate leaving was a very big deal, going over to Epic, trying to see what he's going to be doing over there now with Rocket League being acquired by Epic and that becoming free to play. That feels like that might be the next big move that Nate's going to be working on for the esports scene. With Pete stepping down now, it leaves a lot of questions. And if you're an investor into this league, you just spent 20, 30, 40 million dollars buying into this league, plus salary, plus housing, plus every other expense out there. And the one thing you look for as an investor is some stability. You want stability and growth. You don't want to see a volatile situation where you're going to go into your third commissioner in the 4th year of this league's existence. I'm going to be interested to see what happens with this. It is definitely a big deal for Overwatch League because there could be some massive shakeups coming in season 4.
I'm just trying to find a GIF of this dude as well. But I'm completely with you, John. And I think that's one of the big things. To me, there's, as a fan, there's a little bit of concern as well coming in, seeing a third commissioner come in that early, like you mentioned. Just seeing that much turnover in a league is a little bit disconcerting. The viewership number is a little bit down as well over this past year. Again, we can contribute some of this to COVID. You can contribute some of this to competing games as well, like Valorant emerging into the scene, Rogue Company, another shooter in that similar style coming into the scene. So you have a number of big games being made out and continuing to build up and grow their viewership. And with that being said, you're going to see some viewership start to dwindle on different games, whether it be a Riot game like League of Legends, potentially seeing viewers go over to a different style, whether that be CSGO, maybe seeing a little bit of a cut down with Valorant coming up. Overwatch is losing some pros as well to Valorant. So there's a number of different turnovers in scenes, whether it be shooters, whether it be MOBAs, a number of that back and forth in esports. So with all that in mind, it's a little disconcerting having a commissioner step down. At the same point, I'm going to be that guy. I think Pete was good. I don't think Pete was great. I think there's a number of things that I personally would have done differently. I think there's a number of ways that the league could have been run differently. To me, for example, seeing all these big players move over to a different league, when you have your MVP of season 2 and Sinatra move over to Valorant, this new up and coming game with no real set esports scene yet, that to me is a concern. Does it fall on the commissioner? Maybe not entirely. I think some of that can fall over to the organization. Some of that can fall over to different people within that organization, as well as within the coaching staff. But some of that is going to fall on the league itself. And again, it doesn't necessarily fall on the commissioner himself, but it does fall in his office, in my opinion. I think some of that needs to be worked out. These players need to have more validation that this league is something that's going to be around for a long time. They need to see more support in this league. I mean, you and I know the Justice, and the Justice are doing well. They're making some really good moves to satisfy that organization for the long run. And it's one of those things that I'd like to see more from the league as well. Like, they're making jersey deals here and there. They're making new sponsorship deals, and I think all that's great. We saw YouTube with the deal there for the streaming rights. And I think all these things are awesome. But what is going to make the players stay around? Is a YouTube streaming contract going to keep the players around? Maybe, if they get a big cut of it. But it's one of those things, like, if I'm a player, I see how Riot is controlling the scene, and Riot's esports have done very well historically. Looking at Dota and Valve as well, the international prize pool just continues to grow year over year. It's like $40-some million now. So it's one of those things, seeing all these other leagues and where they're having success at, and then looking at the Overwatch League. Well, yes, there are a number of successes. There's also a number of things that they could look at some of these other leagues to improve on as well. And I think that's my biggest thing here. And I hope with the new commissioner coming in, they start to have some more of those fresh ideas, or maybe even look at what's successful in these other leagues and copy some of that over into an Overwatch League format.
Yeah, I just think Pete was in a really tough position. Again, with the whole COVID thing, it's very, very tough. And the fact that he's exiting in the middle of the playoffs is very concerning also. Like, it's not even waiting till the end of the year. He's like, no, I'm essentially done with this. Like, we're going to let the rest of this play out. There's nothing else I can do here. I'm moving on. Yeah, it's, you see positives from Overwatch League, and then you see moves like this, and it's a head scratcher. So it's going to be one of those dynamic situations that's going to evolve over time. I'll be curious to see who they pick to fill this role. It's going to be a massive deal, whoever is selected to fill the commission of Overwatch League, to see, what changes are going to be made. Are there going to be changes for the better? Are there going to be changes for the worse? There's a lot to be unpacked here with this move. Now with the third commissioner inbound for Overwatch League in 4 years, a lot to be decided until we get that commissioner. It's going to be, make words difficult Monday. It's fine.
It's all good. Yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing, John. Like, we don't really know the behind the scenes details either. Like, the articles we have read said he has stepped down. I don't know if that was a forceful step down. I don't know if that was Pete saying, hey, I'm done. I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to move into a new role. That could be the Overwatch League saying, hey, it hasn't quite worked out the way we wanted it to. We're going to move you to this other department and appoint someone else. We really don't know if it's more Blizzard-led, if it's more Pete-led, where this decision ended up coming from. Regardless, they are getting a new commissioner. I don't know when he or she will be appointed, so we could have a little bit of time on that one waiting. But I am curious heading into next season, given the whole COVID thing is still around, it's still a bit of a situation, especially when we look worldwide. Where is that going to end up looking, especially with these regional teams? Will Overwatch League for next season continue to be online? Will it have more in-person opportunities? Again, homestands were supposed to be a big thing this year, and that ended up falling through. Again, not necessarily because of Pete, not necessarily because of the league or any organizations. They all seem to be doing their part, but the whole COVID situation coming through really did send a shakeup in the league, in the country itself. So I'm very curious to see how all these adaptations are made moving into 2021. Sticking with Activision Blizzard, but slightly moving away for esports for now, this is the launch of WoW Shadowlands. John, you were stoked for this game. You are ready to go out there and level your new character, take down the jailer in the mall, and do all that good stuff over there to expand upon the lore, of course. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, WoW Shadowlands has been delayed. John is dismayed about this, but he's still happy as well. John, go ahead and elaborate why you think this is a good decision overall, even though you're a little bit disappointed about it. This is part of his elaboration, ladies and gentlemen, for the podcast listeners. He is heavily drinking at the moment.
That's a handle of Captain right there. All right. So one, I applaud Blizzard for actually making this decision, because I can guarantee you Activision did not want to delay this. There's no way Activision wanted to push this back whatsoever. Now, again, the beta testers for Shadowlands have been mixed. The content, while it's good and is ready to go, the in-game content currently for the first patch of Shadowlands is nowhere close to being ready. That's an issue. A signal of Shadowlands hitting some bumps in the road is the fact the pre-patch is going to be split up into 2 different patches. That's never been done before. It was going to come out. It was supposed to come out last week. Theoretically, when you take a look at the timeline for all the other expansions, it was supposed to come out last week. And then there was going to be about a 27 to almost a 30-day period between the pre-patch and the launch of the expansion. Obviously, it did not happen. So there's a lot of question marks there. Then they announced it was going to be split up into 2. Well, it didn't make any sense that you'd have 2 patches like a week and a half apart. This isn't League of Legends. We don't, World of Warcraft doesn't patch that often. So that was a major sign that something was wrong. And the beta testers came out, a lot of big names in the WoW community that are beta testers came out and said, hey, look, there's some serious gameplay issues not breaking the game, but some serious issues that need to be addressed before it comes out. A lot of people were pushing for delays. You know, they're not looking at a Cyberpunk delay where it's going to be sometime in 2021. It's still going to come out before the end of 2020. But it needed a delay. A lot of people are thinking about a month, maybe 2 months, mid-December at the absolute latest, which makes sense. Definitely take a look at some creatives out there like Taliesin. Taliesin's a really good one. That's, I watch Evitel and Taliesin all the time. There's Belluar Gaming. He's another good one. I probably mispronounced his name because, I'm terrible with words. He has a great news channel that dives deep into it. He honestly didn't believe they would delay it. But he did feel like it needed to be delayed, and he gave amazing reasons why. So definitely check out his YouTube videos as well. But mainly there was a lot of mechanics that needed to be fixed, mainly in the factions, because you can choose factions and those give you abilities. And there's a lot of punishment if you chose the wrong faction and then you had to switch. That really made the game, for lack of better terms, boring and redundant, and it just wasn't a good experience. So they're going to go in, they're going to fix a lot of things. I'm okay with this. It's 2020. COVID's affecting everything. Shadowlands is no different. I applaud Blizzard for being able to admit, hey, look, it's not ready to go. We pride ourselves in World of Warcraft at least, and we don't want to send out an incomplete expansion. So I like it. I did request time off. I canceled that time off. My boss approved the cancellation, so I still got that back in the time off bank. So yeah, we have to sit back and wait. October 13th, I believe next week, Tuesday, will be the pre-patch part 1 that comes out. And then we're still waiting for part 2, that pre-patch, when that's going to be announced. But I'm looking at end of November, early December from what I've heard for the launch of Shadowlands.
Yeah, and again, guys, it was never officially stated, but the original launch of Shadowlands was set for around mid to late November. They did end up, for some reason, moving it forward to October, at least based on what my sources have told me. So it did end up getting bumped up a little bit because of how well it was going, how well the alpha testing was going. But once you put more patches on, different bugs can show up, like we saw here. And like John said, a lot of these content creators really diving into that beta have noticed, or alpha, whatever testing it's at this point, have noticed some of these issues. So the fact that Blizzard's moving it, again, not a big move, as it should still launch in 2020. I am totally okay with this. I think if games need to move back for a little while, I think it's completely worth it. You do have games like Cyberpunk who have moved from April all the way back to November, and then we're considering another delay even. That to me is a little bit more on the extreme side. Halo could be on that extreme side as well. But when it comes down to it, I much rather have a game delayed than have it released and have it be a big, giant mess. If you get that game to have a little bit more, 3 to 6 months of someone patching it up, in this case, 1 to 2 months of that, allowing some of those bugs to be cleaned up, allowing some of the graphics to be cleaned up, it becomes a much nicer launch and you're able to retain those players early on. If you launch something like a Halo Infinite and the gameplay doesn't look great, the cosmetics, the mechanics, all of that is not looking or feeling to the level that players expect it to, then you're going to lose a lot of those players up front. And we saw it with a number of games. Gears of War 5, for example, lost a lot of their player base up front because of so many bugs. Now a lot of those players starting to return back, but it took time for those players to come back. So it's the same thing. You want to launch a game cleanly. You want to have players involved in it and feel a need to stay involved with your game early on. So the delays are usually a good thing for most of these games. Heading on to our next, but a little different bit of a topic, it's Roblox. Roblox is looking for a $8 billion valuation. The online gaming platform, similar to Minecraft, for those of you guys who played Minecraft and Roblox, it thinks it can double its recent $4 billion valuation. Again, $4 billion is nothing to laugh at. That is a giant quality of money. That's similar to what we saw Warner Brothers Game Studio being valued at as well. And that's like 7 to 8 different studios combined there. Roblox in and of itself is an online gaming platform worth that same amount. They're looking for $8 billion though, guys, as they're looking to go public. My question to you guys in chat, do you think Roblox is worth $8 billion? Minecraft in comparison did sell. Microsoft bought them out for $2 billion. Was that, John, like 3-4 years ago?
I think so, yeah.
I feel like, yeah. So Minecraft went for $2 billion about 3 or 4 years ago to Microsoft. Now Roblox going public, looking for $8 billion for their platform. Chat listeners, do you guys think this is actually worth $8 billion? Curious to hear.
Profit goes. Kids are stupid. Yes, massive market when it comes to that evaluation. I think $8 billion for Roblox. I mean, look, Roblox is creepy. It's a very creepy game. I see the similarities between that and Minecraft, but at the end of the day, I feel like Roblox is just a very different animal. Yeah, and Prophet's right. Creepiness doesn't take away from the valuation of it. You're 100% correct on that. The user base is massive. It appeals to a market. It's a game that's still considered kid friendly, which in present day world, there's not too many kid friendly games out there. When all the rage is still Fortnite, a game that a lot of parents still have an issue with because there's gun violence in it. So yeah, I mean, what is 8 billion a little high? I think it might be a little high. I don't think it's too much higher than what the real valuation would be for that game.
I think it's a couple billion too high if you're asking me. I mean, you see Minecraft and how well it's doing. It's great, and it was worth $2 billion. Nowadays, it'd probably be worth closer to $6 billion if I had to take a guess. Roblox, again, it's popular. It has tons of players, but to me, doubling its valuation over the course of a couple months seems absolutely crazy to me. And I don't think, like, when you look at the stock market and you look at where some of this income is coming from, it's coming from, as John, you would refer to them, as T-Spans would refer to them, as boomers. Me looking at Roblox as a boomer concept, I just don't see that many people buying into this game thinking it's going to be the next biggest thing. Now, again, if they listen to their Wall Street podcast, they listen to the analysts talking, maybe they say, hey, Roblox is absolutely going to pop off. Just look how well Minecraft's doing. And maybe that does become a thing. But to me, to jump from 4 billion all the way to 8 billion seems absolutely obnoxious this quick as far as evaluation goes. So for me, I'm going to give them like 6 billion. I think they could get to 6 in a reasonable amount of time, maybe within the next couple of years. But jumping all the way to 8 just seems a little far-fetched for me at this point, especially when you see a group of like close to, it was like 8 to 10 studios at AT&T with that Batman IP and all of that action going on, Harry Potter as well, only being valued at a certain amount. And again, they don't own the IP, but the studio is working on all those games and the giant amount of talent behind all those games as well. Only going for about 4 billion. It was between 2 and 4 billion was the evaluation. This to me just seems a little crazy with that in mind. And I get the whole, it's a platform concept, but 8 billion is a lot of money as well.
Yeah. And I think I'm right there with you. I feel like it's a couple billion too high. I think they can make the argument for 6. If they're very good negotiators, they can probably make an argument for 7. But I feel like 6 might be the cap for them. Just because, I mean, the competition out there for that market, is growing, and Minecraft is really hard to overcome. Fortnite is a beast in itself to overcome. Roblox spends kids that play video games. Roblox is, like a foundation game, it feels like, and then they graduate from that kind of style game. Like, we have a lot of, younger, generations of people in the OTN Discord, and we've seen them grow from Roblox to a Fortnite, or Minecraft being a game that a lot of people can just absolutely just go crazy, and they can go back to that. But like, you see people graduate from games like Roblox into like a Fortnite, into a League of Legends, into an Overwatch, and they never really turn back to go back to Roblox. Other games feel like they don't have that graduation point where you move on from, let's say, an Overwatch or a League of Legends. It's a game that, a 5-year-old's going to struggle to play. But if you're like 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 30, 40, 50, you'd be able to play that game. There really is no graduation range, if you will, for a game like that. Otherwise, where Roblox, it feels like you can age out of that game. Which I feel like could possibly hurt their valuation. But yeah, I think 8 billion, Joey, I'm right there with you. I think 8 billion is a little too high.
Okay, I'm going to agree and disagree with you actually on this topic. When you look at Minecraft and Roblox, I think one of the special things about them as well, compared to like a League of Legends and CSGO, for example, League of Legends and CSGO, you have your peak times. When you're early teens, you start getting into it potentially for most of these players. Some players are a little bit on the younger edge. But when you look at how mature mechanics are going to end up, it's that 16 to 21 range in a sense, is when players really seem to mature a lot of their mechanics. And then as they get closer to late 20s, early 30s, mechanics start to slow down. When you look at Minecraft and Roblox, there's a lot of older people that actually end up playing both these games. It's something that's not really highly mechanically driven. So you're able to introduce kids into it and allow them to use that creative energy in it, but you're also able to get the older audience involved as well once their mechanics have slowed down a bit. Again, not saying every 30-year-old has to go into Minecraft, but saying as they get older and older, like there are people in the 60s and 70s that do play Minecraft and Roblox still today, just because it's a way to continue to keep their mind active so they don't start to lose some of that mentality. And maybe they're by themselves. Maybe they're in a situation where they don't really have the ability to use that creative knowledge on a regular basis as often as they used to. These are games to help stimulate that, to help continue to grow, and maybe just have a chance to be with their grandkids as well, or find ways to connect with different people that they didn't have before. So I think Minecraft and Roblox as well are just games that I'm going to say they're ageless in a sense. Like, yes, certain people will grow out of them to other game categories, but they also have that ability to bring anyone back in as well.
I'll go ahead and ask my 88-year-old grandfather if he wants to play Roblox with me so we can connect. How about that?
There are some people, like older seniors, that actually end up streaming these games, for the record, sir. But yeah, if you get your grandfather on Roblox, I'd be very impressed over there. That would be quite the stream, ladies and gentlemen. Moving on to our next topic. This one's going to have an impact, guys. Genshin Impact. Talk about a monstrous game. For those of you who have not heard about this one, it's definitely worth looking up. Think something like an anime waifu type of thing combined with Breath of the Wild graphics. So your characters look straight out of anime. They got that definitely anime feel. They have a little bit of that fan service feel going. And then when you look at the graphics of the environment, it feels like Breath of the Wild. You have that really pretty grass, that nice water looking graphic. The trees look beautiful. The edging and the draw of the edging looks really clean as well. It's very much like Breath of the Wild when it comes to that. This game is sweeping the globe. Before it even released, there were 21 million pre-registrations for this game. And based on preliminary data, Genshin Impact is on track to gross more than $100 million across all platforms by the end of its first month. This is ginormous. This is a game that launched, I don't remember when it launched. I think it was the last week of September or first week of October. It's a free-to-play game, but it does have gacha mechanics to it. For those of you who don't know what gacha is, it's kind of like, hey, you can wish upon this star for 10 credits. And on top of that, you get a random pull at these different characters. And your 5-star characters are worth like under a 1% pull. I think it's like a 0.006 or something very, very small. And then as you go up with lesser and lesser stars, it becomes more of a possibility of pulling these characters. There's 3-star, 2-star, 4-star, 5-star characters, and same with weapons as well. That's where people get drawn into these things. So when you look at achievements, you look at daily progress, you do get some of that free currency from that, or premium currency to use for free via those ways. But if you're someone that likes to spend in games as well, and you just want to pull that trigger 500 times, you could put tons of money into it and pull as much as your heart desires. And so far, they've at least made 100 million off of those people trying to pull into this free-to-play single-player game. It does have some multiplayer aspects, but it's not an MMO. It's purely a single-player game. Once you reach, I think it's like level 16, you can have one buddy jump in as well and play some multiplayer. But again, this is nothing to like show off your mechanics. This is nothing to say, I've got the coolest skin on the Rift. This is purely to say, hey, I just want a chance at rolling this character in this pretty much single-player game. And people are spending loads and loads of money on it. I don't even know what the total downloads are at this time, but 21 million pre-registrations is giant. I believe that's one of the biggest downloads in a game in its first week, really worldwide, record-wise.
I feel personally attacked in that example. I feel like you were like just aiming that at me the entire. For people who like to spend ridiculous amounts of money for 500 pulls, go for it. They're already making millions and millions of dollars. I don't
think, like, if there were luck skins, you would buy your heart's content out. But I don't think you're gonna buy enough like random things. Like, it's like buying a quarter to stick into a machine at a Plaza Azteca, or a random Mexican restaurant with one of those claw machines that come. And it misses every single time. Sorry, guys. I couldn't think of the name of this thing. We're going to call them the claw machine. Like Toy Story, that claw. So it's just like putting a quarter into that thing, and you move your little stick, you push down, the claw is always going to miss it. It feels like 90% of the time. It's the same kind of thing here. You have such a low draw rate of getting these people, yet so many people are pouring tons and tons of money to try to get these pulls. I'm sorry, I had to go with the claw machine. That's just what it feels like to me. Like, why are you spending money? Like, it's a single player game, guys. Like, if you want to play it, do it, but just play it and try to earn these things sometimes, you know? crazy. But hey, it's a free game. That's great. Players can play it. They've made a ton of money off it already. They probably are set for years on end. But hey, it's great. Continues to pull up downloads. It's worth checking out. The graphics are gorgeous. Again, it does have that anime waifu style into it as well. But overall, just the scenery graphics are very, very pretty in this one. Legends of Runeterra, the League of Legends card game out there. Not to hit on a ton of this one, but it's got its new expansion. They dove into Targon, I believe, in this last expansion, and they have a Riot-led pro scene on the way. So Riot, after this year, will be leading the pro scene for League of Legends, Legends of Runeterra, TFT, and Valorant as well. The second expansion of Targon is set to drop on October 14th with the introduction of a new card type, Landmarks. We're not going to dive a ton into that, but you can check that out on their Twitter page. The expansion will include 3 new champions alongside a total of 40 new cards, and the third and final expansion of the set, Season of Fortune, will drop in December. In addition to that, there is a new event starting later this month, the seasonal tournaments, which will be introduced into the game. This is where their pro scene is going to kick off. John, I know you have a great time playing against the Innkeeper in games like this, but now if you move on past the Innkeeper, you can go ahead and play up against competitive players as well. Players will be supplied with access to an in-game competitive tournament with qualifications being available throughout their success based on how they're succeeding in ranked play as well as gauntlet play. So if John is at the top of the ladder in ranked play, he's going to get invited to this tournament. However, if he doesn't really like playing in the ranked ladder, but he wants to just make a quick run in the gauntlet and he ends up with a flawless run there, he can qualify as well. So this will kind of be how they qualify for tournaments for players and organizations to start looking at pairing up for different signings to move into a pro scene later down the road.
I feel personally attacked again. You had to bring the Innkeeper up. That was like
I always have to bring
years
the Innkeeper
ago.
up.
Like it wasn't even a thing, really. You're just blowing it out of proportion.
I think the Innkeeper will forever be one of your biggest foes, John. And unfortunately for you, Legends of Runeterra does not have an Innkeeper, but it does have some complex mechanics if you ever decide to dive into that one.
Well, good for Runeterra because it's a virtual card game, which I think are the dumbest things ever. So I'm going to go ahead and pass. It's fine.
Okay, go get your Genshin Impact skin, sir. But before that, let's head on over into Overwatch League. We have the grand finals, the winners bracket this upcoming weekend, October 8th through the 10th. We have Seoul Dynasty, the Asian number 2 seed, up against the NA number 1 seed of the San Francisco Shock. And then in our second bracket, the Philadelphia Fusion up against the Asian number 1 seed of the Shanghai Dragons. John, I'm really excited for this. I think this is going to be a great event overall. The way they're doing it is double elimination as well. So let's say both Asian teams completely demolish the NA teams. They do have another chance to work their way back up into the winner's bracket. We did really, really well in predictions for both Asia and NA. We almost hit 100% actually with our predictions, so that's very impressive. I do not feel half as confident predicting this bracket. You look very focused.
I'm getting crap in chat for the lack of decoration behind me.
Oh yeah, welcome to John's jail cell over here for anyone joining live tonight.
Like literally, I'm still in the process of moving stuff around. Like I have a couch I need to bring here. So there's still time for stuff to happen. But thank you for being so concerned with my bare wall. Yeah, Joey, back on topic. I feel like this is a very hard bracket to actually pick here. Dynasty, Shock, Fusion, and Dragons. I mean, these are 4 teams that have really been the only consistent teams this year in a season of inconsistency. If it didn't come down to these 4, it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. Like these are 4 teams, San Francisco and Fusion. A lot of people had these as the 1-2 interchangeably in North America. And Shanghai definitely up there. Maybe some people slept on the Seoul Dynasty a little bit. Not a lot of people, they didn't have as much hype on them as they did in season 1, when they really underperformed with the amount of talent they had on that roster. But they're starting to come back through and be that organization that a lot of people expected to be coming out of Korea. I think it's going to be difficult to predict this, Joey. It's going to be tough.
We're going to do it anyway, though. We're doing it live here on the show.
Why not?
As we did, we actually predicted all 4 of these teams in their respective bracket. We hit both of the top Asian teams and both of the top NA teams. So we're going to excel it. We're going to take it to the next level. We're going to step it up, John. Seoul Dynasty, San Francisco. I'm going to take San Fran 3-2 over Seoul, bumping them to the loser's bracket. I think San Francisco comes in really hot. the season 2 winners overall. Again, a new look roster. They've had some major changes. Sinatra moving on as well, but they're still a very, very solid team, a very solid org, and I think they come in with a lot of fire behind them. Seoul playing that upset, and I think that's one of their big advantages. With their backs against the wall, with less expectations on them, they could easily come out here and play that upset, and that's why I think it goes 5 games. But in the end, I think the shock will shock no one moving on to the next round.
I'm going to take Seoul Dynasty. Because they're playing out of their mind. I feel like they're the hot team at the moment. They've really shocked the Asian side of the bracket, if you will. I feel like a lot of people, I believe they were the 5th seed. Let me go back and double check real quick. Yeah, 5th seed in the Asian bracket. So performance wise, they caught a lot of people off guard. And they took down the Spark 3-0. They took down the Charge 3-0. The Shanghai Dragons, it went 5 games. And then they dropped down to go up against New York because apparently that's based on the continent of Asia. And they swept New York 3-0 as well. Like, they are a hot team going into the grand finals bracket. I feel like the Shock are going to have their challenge is going to be cut for them. I think it's going to go 5 games, but I do think Seoul pulls it out in the 5th game.
There you have it, folks. It's going 5 games for both of us. Jon taking Seoul out of this one, continuing that 5 seed run that we had in the Asian bracket, and then NA for me taking the Shock to move on. For NA to get a few more wins than we've seen in the League of Legends World Championship so far over here in the Overwatch League. Over to the second one, we have Philadelphia Fusion up against the Shanghai Dragons. Jon, go ahead and tell me who you're taking in this matchup.
I'm taking Shanghai. I feel like Shanghai's on a completely different level. Talk about an organization that was absolutely committed after the embarrassment that was season 1. They just completely redid everything, that organization from top to bottom. Kudos to the ownership group for not settling, for wanting to be a force in this league. They came out, they've been a force, arguably one of the best organizations the past several years now, since that disaster in season 1. I feel like they're the team to beat. I feel like Philadelphia will give them a good shot. I can see this going 5 games as well. But I could also see this ending in 4. I could see Shanghai 3-1 Philadelphia. Shanghai definitely a team to look out for. I think they take down Philadelphia in 5-3-2.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with the same prediction. I think it could be a 3-1 as well, the way Shanghai is playing. To me, Philadelphia relies so much on that Sombra Reaper combo, and I think it's very countable in the meta right now. If the counters come out, and I think Shanghai is a smart enough team to do that, they could end up setting Philadelphia back, but the pure talent alone could probably get them 2 wins. So I am going to take Shanghai to move on, but to take down Philly in 5-3-2. So with that being said, we will go... Well, actually, let's give a clear winner overall before we move on. If you had to pick one team to win it all here in season 3, who's it going to be?
Congratulations, Shanghai. The storybook journey is complete.
Yeah, I think it's Shanghai as well. I think it's going to be Shanghai, San Francisco, if you ask me, regardless of what the losers plays out. I think those are your top 2 teams. To me, the losses that San Francisco experienced throughout the middle of the season are going to be the difference. If they do come back to win, even with players like Sinatra moving on, I think that's going to be a storybook tale to tell from years on end. But Shanghai is just such a talented team, winning that Asian bracket, showing time and time again how resilient they can be. I'm going to take Shanghai as well to win this whole thing. League of Legends Worlds, our last topic of the day, Jon. We're not going to dive too deep because we have hit the hour mark over on the show. But Group A, our results as of right now: G2 Esports 2-0, Suning 1-1, Maki Esports 1-1, and Team Liquid at 0-2. Representing NA not so well at the moment. Overall, I don't expect too much to change in this group, Jon. I believe my predictions were G2, then Sunning, and then Team Liquid, and then Maki. So I do have my 3rd and 4th reverse, and I don't expect too much to change in that area. I think the way Maki came out and played Team Liquid at the beginning is going to show how they're going to play throughout the rest of this group stage. I think they could split it, but I don't really have high expectations for either one of those 2 teams at this point.
Agreed.
Nice and simple. Group B.
Short, sweet,
Damwon 3-0, JD Gaming 2-1, Rogue 1-2, stealing 1 win, but not enough to be in second, and PSG at 0-3 through week 1 here. This is how I predicted it. I think it stays like this as well.
Agreed.
Okay, so I do want to talk about one team here. Rogue. I think Rogue has the potential to take a win off of JD or off of Damwon. They did lose to both of them so far, the Damwon game being very, very close. To me, in week 2, I could see them stealing a win off one of those teams, but I don't know if it's enough to get them to propel into the quarterfinals for the next stage personally.
Yeah, I feel like Rogue definitely has upset potential in Group B. As close as the Damwon game was, I think Damwon would better prepared in the second go around. I think JD Gaming is going to be their best opportunity. Yeah, they'll take the win off of PSG, provided, PSG doesn't magically figure out how to play this game all of a sudden. Maybe they should stop scrimming TSM. That might actually help a little bit. I feel like Rogue has the possibility of pulling the upset here to get the second seed to get out of Group B. I think it's going to come against JD Gaming. If it does, it's going to be an uphill battle. I feel like Rogue has their battle cut out for them. It's going to be a tough uphill battle. I think JD Gaming will give them a run for their money. I do think it's going to end up the way the standings currently are. I do think JD will secure the second seed, but if an upset was to happen, I feel like that's where Rogue would pull it off.
Absolutely. Over to Group C, we have Gen G leading at 2-0. Fnatic tied with LGD at 1-1. LGD currently holding that tiebreaker between the two. And then TSM representing NA, like most NA teams at the moment, at 0-2.
Great performance from TSM. Aren't you glad you're representing NA? All those TSM fans out there like, oh, we're going to go out there and show everyone what NA is about. Yeah, great. 0-2. Appreciate it. You're showing exactly what NA is about.
Okay, I hope NA pulls some more wins. We did get one from FlyQuest, spoiler, for the Group D area. Overall, I'm very curious to see how this group plays out. I think Gen G does end up as your top seed pretty cleanly. I think TSM also cleanly, if you can say so, will end up as your bottom seed. Between Fnatic and LGD, though, John, who do you think ends up advancing? Right now, LGD holding the 1-0 lead.
I would like Fnatic to get out of this group. I think LGD is definitely going to be their biggest issue here. If they can take that second win off of LDG, I think Fnatic gets out of the group easily. I feel like they secure that number 2 seed. Pending an epic collapse from Gen G, which I don't see happening. I feel like if Fnatic can beat LGD, they're set. They're good to go for that number 2 seed. And I think they can do it. I really do. They just need to polish up some of their gameplay here and there, some of their shot calling. I feel like they have the ability to pull off that win and get out of the group stage.
Yeah, I'm with you on that as well. For those of you who watched the Fnatic game, I think LGD played really well. But to me, Fnatic didn't really draft a great comp either. They drafted Jhin for Reckless, low mobility, and drafted him into a bunch of tanks as well. And Jhin is not really the best tank buster out there. On top of that, Graves for Selfmade in the jungle. Graves is a pick that he has not won a single game on yet when it comes to regional competition as well. So I don't think that was the greatest of drafts coming out from Mithy in the Fnatic coaches. With all that being cleaned up, I think Fnatic can take down LGD. I think they're mechanically good enough to do it. But again, the drafting has been an issue all year, especially in Summer Split, and I think it could continue to be an issue here. And if Fnatic misses out, I think that could be a big reason that they do so. LGD, one of those funky teams, though, John. They've been one of those teams that underperformed through the first half of play-ins and then seemed to really pick it up for that second half. In their previous Worlds appearances, they've always flopped as well. So far, this is the most successful they've been as of yet, mainly because they made it from play-ins to the main stage and actually have a win on the board. Again, we can't read too much into it as we've only seen one match from both of these teams up against each other as of yet. So I know Fnatic has historically done well going into Game 2. LGD has really done poorly in Week 2 prior to this Worlds, let's say. So I think this will be a really spicy matchup again. Genji and TSM looking pretty solid where they are. Fnatic and LGD both could switch around depending how this goes. Last but not least, we have Top Esports in top place in Group D. They are 2-0. FlyQuest pulling a beautiful win out this week up against the Unicorns of Love, now 1-1 and tied with Dragon X. And then we have Unicorns of Love sitting in fourth at 0-2. John, I think this ends somewhat like it is now. I think it's going to end up with Top Esports, then Dragon X, then FlyQuest, then UOL, and then FlyQuest. I actually think UOL will end up taking FlyQuest down the next time they meet. And I think UOL has a bit more upset potential than FlyQuest the way they're currently playing.
Wow, no love for the NA team. And you have every right not to give them that love. You know what? Congrats, FlyQuest. You're the only team that sort of showed up to Worlds from North America. But yeah, I agree with Joey. I don't see this majestical first round going any farther than this. I do think Unicorns Love definitely have upset potential that they can definitely force FlyQuest down to that fourth spot. It's not a good showing for North America. If FlyQuest is going to be the only organization to pull off a win, And really the only organization that has a chance to possibly get out of Worlds, out of the group stage at Worlds at the moment. I'm sorry, Team Liquid and TSM, you guys are two large organizations with massive fan base, with a lot of expectations and a lot of really good players on your rosters, and you can't even get a win. As of right now, that's not a good look for you. We'll see what happens in the second go around for both of these teams, for really all three teams from North America, but I don't expect much out of them. It would not surprise me if every team from North America finished dead last in their group.
I mean, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's not just NA. Look at Western League of Legends in general right now. So G2 looking good at 2-0. They almost lost one of those games. It was kind of a clown fiesta. Could easily be 1-1. But then you have Rogue at 1-2. You have Fnatic at 1-1. You have a lot of teams from NA and EU just not really performing at the level that they should be. Or maybe this is the level that they should be, and they're just that far behind at the moment. But when you look at it, if we look at the current standings as of right now, assuming LGD has that tiebreaker over Fnatic and DRX eventually has a tiebreaker with FlyQuest, we could end up with 4 Chinese teams, 3 Korean teams, and 1 European team. That is terrible for Western League of Legends after a year where we've had G2 do extremely well. And prior to that, Fnatic and Cloud9 making semis as well. So we could end up in a very, very heavy, really an Asian heavy quarterfinals in general, with 7 out of the 8 teams being Asian, depending if the trends continue in the direction they currently are.
Yeah, and no offense to Rogue, I just don't see anything changing there. But I feel like, let's go ahead and say G2 makes it through. Fnatic has a good opportunity. Like, let's not sit here and say Fnatic does not have a tough group. Outside of TSM, we're just going to throw them out the window because TSM stands for totally sucky meta and comp and whatever team. The team just sucks, whatever. So Fnatic against Genji and LGD, like those are tough opponents. Like, that's something that Fnatic is going to have to overcome. They're going to pull off a win against TSM. It's going to happen. Sorry, Clue. I know you're a TSM fan because of some kind of weird hatred you have for Cloud9, but I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. Fnatic will take a win off of that, and I feel like if they can take another win, if they can take a win off of LGD going around in the second round, then I think they're set and they're good to go. For that second seed, they have a really good opportunity there. Genji, obviously you have to see how everything else plays out, but I feel like Fnatic is in a really good position to be the second Western team out of groups. Rogue, I think they're right there with FlyQuest and the rest of the Western world. Like, I'm glad they got a win, but at the end of the day, when you look at their group, there's just too much talent in that group for them to overcome and really force themselves into that second seed area to get out of the group stage. Now, again, we've seen weird things happen. We've seen teams collapse in the second go around in the group stage. We've seen it time and time before. These major powerhouse names from Asian regions just absolutely collapse. It has happened. But these Western teams, I don't see that happening with Rogue. I don't see that happening with TSM. And I don't see that happening with FlyQuest or Team Liquid. I feel like Fnatic and G2 is the Western Hemisphere's best hope to get out of the group stage.
Yeah, I don't know if there's too much flipping you can do here, but I think if Rogue were to be placed in Group A or Group D, I think they'd get out very easily. I think Group C, they'd have about an equal challenge of what we have with Fnatic right now. Yes, you can argue Fnatic's a stronger team historically. I think overall the way Rogue has been performing is not bad, though. Fnatic did beat them, I think it was 3-0 or 3-1 when it came down to the playoffs. So Fnatic did end up getting that final win. But Rogue, I think, is better than a FlyQuest. I think they're better than the Unicorns of Love. I definitely think they're better than a Team Liquid. Maki Esports as well, I just don't think would compete with them. So I think they'd have a potential to take down a Sunning. I think they'd have a potential to take down a DRX. So if Rogue was in a different group, I think they got a little bit burned here by getting drawn into the powerhouse group of B. JD Gaming is that number 2 from China, and Damwon that number 1 from South Korea. Those are really, really tough teams to go up against, arguably some of the best teams in the whole tournament. Now they're finding themselves competing directly head on with them. Anything else you want to say on groups, John? We're going to dive probably heavily into groups on Thursday once we have a few more of these matchups done, once we have a little bit less on the slate to talk about because we did have to make up a little bit for this week. So overall, I think we'll have a lot to dive in come Thursday. We'll jump in with chat, get some opinions there as we look at potential quarterfinal matchups in the last couple groups to be played. For those of you, we are making some predictions on Twitter here and there. Squirkle in the chat, also making regular predictions as well for how the games are going to play out. Definitely check those out on Twitter. And we'll try to retweet some of yours as well. If you do a little hashtag LvLUp Live, we'll have an easy way to find them and be able to retweet those out. But we'd love to see your predictions, love to see your thoughts on Worlds. John, any other statements here before we head into a couple more games of the first half of the group stage and then into the second half, the latter half, where the action really gets intense?
Cloud9 would have performed a lot better for North America. Just saying. They collapsed, though. It's fine.
They collapse. So like I said, guys, we'll talk more on that on Thursday. Probably not as much on Cloud9 at Worlds, but plenty of other action to cover then.
They did make it out of groups several times, though, right?
Oh
right?
my
I'm just saying. Fact check me, Joey. That's all I'm asking for. Nation, that will do it for this edition of LvLUp Live. But before you go, head on over to patreon.com/OTN and consider becoming a part of Overtime Network. In return, you'll get access to exclusive content that nobody else in the world can get unless they are a part of OTN Media. If you haven't already, make sure you follow the show here on Twitch to catch the next episode of LvLUp Live. If you listen to the show on our podcast feed, leave us a review. The LvLUp Podcast is now available on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Play. We love to hear from you. In fact, we love to hear from our listeners and viewers so much, we have other ways for you to interact with us and the show. Joey, where else can LvLUp Nation go to interact with us?
LvLUp Nation, regardless if you're a TSM fan or not, you can go ahead and follow us on Twitter. That is at LvLUp Live over there, LvLUP Live. In addition to that, you can follow the Umbrella Network, OTN Media on Twitter and Facebook as well, at OTN Media, and on Instagram at OTN_media. Last but not least, hit us up with a follow or maybe even a subscription on Twitch. We love those Prime subs out there as well. Thanks for all those who are Prime subbing to us. Twitch.tv/OTN Media. LvLUp is regular throughout the week, Mondays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. A number of other shows and content throughout the week as well. Come check it out.
All right, make sure you tune in this Thursday, October 8th, as we cover the latest and greatest in gaming and esports news. Do your ears a favor. Hit that sub and follow button on Twitch to know when the next episode of LvLUp Live is ready for your viewing pleasures. We will catch you all on Thursday. Have a great week. Remember, be nice to your fellow gamers online, and as always, level up.